likely neither will. Calling the Audible. The reason why it's the thing is the daily show is being produced by Iggy Magnus. It is being produced to mixed results.
We hope we have sound, but you step up.
We have sound in the room.
I think you're getting overridden by the music. It's way too loud.
It's
Awesome.
not starting well.
Okay, there you go. That's better. Talk like that.
Eagle, come back. Dude, you control our levels.
Yes, that's true. They're max.
They're maxed?
So,
Here's the
Yes.
gain. Anyway, it's all, don't touch. I'll just speak louder, I guess. Alexi, man, how you been, bro?
Injured, in case
Yeah.
anyone hasn't known. Not bad. It's been a while since I've been on the podcast. I think since week 1, but I'm back now. So now that I have a sprained ankle, I have nothing better to do with my life other than appear on the podcast. So I'm here and I'm ready to talk.
Yeah, sprained ankles suck.
They really
It's
suck,
really frustrating as an injury.
especially right before the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like not the worst timing because I haven't had any games in like 2 weeks, so I'm roughly halfway through my rehab. But it sucks.
My-
Like capital S.
The first time I hurt my ankle was like week 9 in a 10-0 season. And we then lost the first playoff game for a variety of reasons. But mostly it was a lot of people playing out of position because of injuries. You know.
Yeah.
And then there was also someone cheated. But anyway,
Someone always cheats.
someone always cheats, which we'll talk about on this show. We were less good about catching cheaters back then, though, which is to my detriment, unfortunately. But yeah, all is well. I'm glad we're back on the show together. It's been a little while. Actually, I don't think we've ever done a show together.
Who was that? I with you the first time? I think I
don't
was.
remember.
I don't know.
yes.
It
He
wasn't
was.
Nice.
Yes, and he had no idea who Simon Cowell was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That running joke.
That was
so
funny.
there's the running joke is that you have no pop culture sense or any sense of anything that happened before you, which is
Less than
so
most.
super Gen Z because like it's not like you were born 1,000 years ago. You were just born.
Which, to be fair, to speak for my generation, most people have better pop culture than me. I have an
So
especially
the
atrocious
pop
one.
culture thing is a you thing.
Yes.
The not knowing any past is a Gen Z thing.
Yes, the world started with me and will end with me.
Yeah. It was. It's cool to have you back. We've played playoff games.
We
and
have.
We are heading into the next round of the knockouts. We'll get into our normal levels of stupidity, but before we do, I do want to talk a little bit about this season's award winners, since I often get, as soon as the award winners get announced, my inbox gets littered with complaints. The Karening begins.
That's amazing because I get no complaints.
You will now.
Iggy
Ladies and
will.
gentlemen, the two people responsible for choosing your award winners are in studio today. If we were live, we'd be taking questions. Iggy and Alexi are heavily involved. It's a tremendous amount of work that nobody likes to do, by the way. So that's why I'm not involved with it. That's why Eagle's not involved with it. That's why Rob is not involved with it. That's why Mo's not involved with it. We've all done it before. We all hate it. So
But the best part about this was when no one knew it was Iggy and I. And we'd have
Yeah.
conversations with people at the field like, oh yeah, awards? Mm-hmm. Wonder how it'll go. Oh, well, they're sitting very well. Me know that me and Iggy have talked about it the night before.
and did you ever like people like, oh, I got snubbed, and you're like, totally.
It was Peace's fault.
That's fine. That's fine.
It still is.
No, because here's the thing. Despite this disclaimer, people will still message me and tell me, hey, what happened? How come I'm not an All-Star? What happened? I'm heartbroken. I've actually had that. I've had someone tell me they were heartbroken. Heartbroken.
I'm a heartbroker, so it's okay.
Yeah,
I get it.
Apparently, you and
Me and Iggy are quite the power.
I was gonna say you and Ben Stiller, Heartbreak Kid.
But I wouldn't get that one.
That's true. That's true. You wouldn't understand that one. So do you want to go tier by tier?
Yeah, let's go tier by tier.
Which
So I've
one
got
do
them
you-
in front of me right now. We'll be putting these up on the website as well in a very beautiful article when either Iggy or I have the time. So we'll be going division by division. For all those of you who don't know, players of the year, we have the QB of the year, receiver of the year, defensive player of the year, and two-way player of the year. These are purely based on stats. Everyone always asks, doesn't matter how many games I have. I'll say for 99% cases of no. If you've played 5 games, we won't prorate your stats over an 8-game schedule or a 10-game schedule.
The philosophy that
We will not, yes.
the only time prorating ever factors in is when someone is so evidently the winner. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
So I don't like the word prorated
I agree.
in there. It's used as a tiebreaker. So if two players have 10 interceptions, let's say, but one of them did it in 7 games and the other did it in 8, then where everything else is equal, then we'll give it to the player who did it in 7 games.
But then again, I don't know. It feels like we're rewarding like people who don't show up, worst teammates. So,
Yep.
um,
But I can think of some people, if they showed up for one less game, would have won an award, but we won't get into that. That's a different category of... Iggy knows what I'm talking about. Anyways,
so you're saying if Iggy had played one less game, he would have won an award because it wouldn't have been a disastrous game.
yes, if he would have thrown a game away with, I think, 4 INTs, he would have won an award. But Iggy decided to throw
It's
away
okay,
the
Iggy,
award
I started
and the
my
game.
co-ed season by throwing 5 interceptions. So
But it didn't cost you an award. Okay, so are we ready for these?
yes, let's do it.
Sounds good. So we're going to start in Tier 1, where we have quarterback of the year is Daniel Lazara, receiver of the year is Kenny Bai, defensive player of the year is James Drysdale, and our two-way player of the year in Division 1 is Phil Ferrand.
Yeah.
Moving on to Tier 2. If I say division...
Wow, it's rapid fire here.
Oh, yeah. Are we wasting time? Well, I think the waste of
We
time
have a
was...
lot to get through. So.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
already
of course.
procrastinated an hour on the setup here. Thank you, Iggy. Okay, I'll be going rapid fire. If I say division, I mean tier. If I say tier, I might mean tier. So, in Tier 2, our quarterback of the year is Stephen Harapasaw. Our receiver of the year is James Drysdale. Defensive player of the year is Phil Ferrand. And our two-way player of the year is Thomas Kutsu. So I'm going to take a 30-second pause here to let you know that the rule we apply is if you win a QB of the year, you can't win QB of the year in any other division.
Yeah.
But winning an award doesn't exclude you from winning awards somewhere else. So as you saw, James and Phil...
So you can, just to be clear, Stephen Harperson, for example, could win. He could have won the Tier 1 quarterback of the year, but not Tier 2 quarterback of the year.
Exactly.
But if he played receiver in Tier 4, he could have won receiver of the year.
Bingo, which is what we saw happen with James Drysdale and Phil Ferrand, who both have won 2 awards and will have 2 beautiful trophies to bring home and show off to their kids. Or not kids in either case, but anyways, you got my point.
Just someone else's kids.
Exactly.
Don't kidnap people.
Just
though.
kids.
Just walk through the park showing off your trophy to random kids. Not creepy
Yeah.
at all. In Tier 3, our QB of the year is... Iggy, do you want to say it?
No.
Jules Regenbald and not Iggy. Our receiver of the year is AJ Zabatelli. Our defensive player of the year is Zachary Alberts-Gill. Best of luck with your tattoo. And our two-way player of the year is Benji Ziegler. Rapid fire style, moving on to Tier 4.
Wait, can we put the different possibilities for tattoo on a roulette wheel? And that will decide which tattoo he gets.
I'll choose for his body.
Yeah.
We'll say yes. He
Make
has-
sure they're all variations of barbed wire tattoos.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's not going to happen this week. The wheel.
Come on. Get to it.
No. It's just, no. No. This is the best we're going to get.
Iggy's doing his best. And not finally, Tier 4, we're halfway there. Our QB of the year is Vincent Chung. Our receiver of the year is Nicholas Vaughn. Defensive player of the year is Ethan Adrian. And our two-way player of the year is Skylar Bailiff. For the Co-Ed Cup, the quarterback of the year is William Mouroir. The receiver of the year is Omar Chavez. The defensive player of the year is Bujima Sada. The two-way player of the year is Kwesi Gordon-Mall. And in Co-Ed, we have an exceptional category, which is female player of the year. And the female player of the year for the Co-Ed Cup is Rekha Sivasubramanian. I hope I got the last name right. I'm sorry if I didn't, Rekha.
Siva Subramanian.
Yes. In the women's division, this is our final division for the rapid fire segment for awards. The QB of the year is Maud Lacasse. The receiver of the year is Laurence Bonbriand. Defensive player of the year is Rachel Valliere. And the two-way player of the year is Catherine Girard.
But should it have gone to Maud Lacasse because she doesn't play for Vortex, which is clearly the greatest team to ever play women's. I'm doing it.
It was close. That one was really close.
It was very close.
Yeah, I know.
I think even converts, successful convert attempts and everything came into the equation.
You didn't hear the episode clearly,
Yes,
Alexi,
I
but
did.
I was gonna apologize to Maud Lacasse for not giving her flowers because I just really like Gab Vanier and I love what Vortex have done. And while I started doing it, Mo was like peacocking, and I decided now I'm gonna dig my heels in further and not give Mo Lacasse any credit for being amazing.
Well, that backfired on you because she has
Doesn't matter.
a trophy and you don't.
Not my trophy.
Well, if she came to co-ed, she could steal your trophy, but
Probably.
definitely.
But yeah, so it's okay though, as long as we're giving trophies to being the second best quarterback in the women's division.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Mo. I actually really like you a lot, but you were backed by Mo Khan, and I can't do it. It's like when a political candidate is backed by like oil money and just can't support it. Same thing. Mo Khan is oil money. I've often said that. So yeah, those are the award winners. Remember, when you have issues with not winning the award, you can take your tiers or your divisions and send them to Iggy and Alexi.
Contact information not provided.
Yeah.
Or send it to this guy. You guys can't hear it, but it was the Eagle soundbite.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just you gotta verbalize the things we can't hear. So from now on, you need to sing all music for the rest of the show. You need to provide all like secondary sound effects. So not only do you play Eagle sound effect, but just say as like plainly as possible Eagle sound effect.
Or I can just do it.
No. What caught your eye this week?
Okay, so I always think about co-ed first, and co-ed's my little baby. So co-ed caught my eye first, and we had a great game in the co-ed semifinals between Fast Not Furious and Les Petits Fuck, and that's the first one I want to talk about.
The only upset.
The only upset. And
like I think that's a legitimate upset. Like, so I know Petit Fuck scored a lot of points, so that keeps them in any game. But I don't think any of us thought that Fast Not Furious were losing their first playoff game.
So my question here, and I wasn't watching the game, so if one of you knows, I'm not sure who was rushing Dom Lefort, but if it was anyone other than Quasi, Fast Not Furious don't know football. And that's not a hot take.
Mm-hmm.
Dom Lefort is one of the most elusive quarterbacks in FPF. Marie-Lou is one of the greatest rushers in FPS. I'm not sure if she was present at this game. I don't think
she's the kind of rusher for
exactly
Dom Lefort.
She's a Peeze eater, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But when it comes to rushing...
disrupting pocket quarterbacks, taking away angles, she's great at that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But when it comes to actually taking away someone who's just an amazing athlete, that's not necessarily her forte. That's why I really hope Quasi was rushing. I don't think he was. So, long story short, I'm going to resume this game down to you very, very simply. Les Petits Fuck used their female players, and Fast Not Furious did not. Mm-hmm. They completed 2 passes for 24 yards to Julia Paradis-Roberge. Defensively, they had just about no input from female players other than Diane James Landry. Now, on the other hand, Les Petits Fuck, who won this game by a touchdown, had 2 touchdown patches from Gabriel Vanier, who I think might be a guy, actually, now that I'm saying this one.
No.
It's the same
she's
Vortex.
QB from Vortex.
Oh, she's the QB. Perfect.
And they didn't win by 2 TDs. They won
by
2
1
points.
TD. 1 TD.
36-34.
Yes, but they had 1 more TD scored.
Oh, I get what he's saying.
And the rushing? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they scored 1 more TD.
They scored 6 TDs versus
5 TDs.
5 TDs by Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious were far more prolific with
the converts and all that.
Got
So they used Gabriel Vanier, they used Marie-Ève Vaudrin, and they targeted Charlie Brière-Couture. On the defensive side of the ball, Marie-Ève Vaudrin stepped up, and Charlie Brière had a huge sack. So really, what I'm looking at the difference of this game is the storyline of the co-ed season is that when your female players are involved, especially offensively, with those 2 huge touchdown catches, that's what changes games. Yeah. And the issue we've always seen with the Fast Not Furious franchise is that no matter who's under center, their female players are underutilized, despite having some of the better female players in the co-ed division, and that's why they're knocked out of the first round. Now, they're in the consolation bracket, they can still make the finals. The path's a lot more difficult, but the takeaway here is it's high time to start using your female players like the exceptional athletes they are. And I know I keep on beating this drum.
So I don't know if this is just incompetent scorekeeping, but Marie-Lou Côté-Noël and Lauriane Lapointe were on the roster sheets, but didn't have any, didn't make their mark on the game. So to me, that's a huge misstep to not get them involved.
Unequivocally, that's what I've been saying. Now, that being said, it's entirely possible they weren't actually present.
Yeah.
I know Marie-Lou's also going to have ACL surgery relatively soon, so I don't know what her injury status is. I don't know if she's trying to take things careful before her surgery to make sure she doesn't aggravate things. Mm-hmm. But unequivocally, Marie-Lou is one of the best female players we have in FPF, and if she's not being utilized on either side of the ball when she's present at a game, that's criminal.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw Iced Out really take it to Badgers. I thought this game would be closer. I thought maybe that's one that we could see an underdog squeak out a win, because Iced Out has had issues this season as well. But Daryl Dorsley was great at quarterback this week.
Yeah, it kind of ends there. He was great at quarterback, and oh my God, surprise, surprise, their leading receiver, Melissa Hébert, 5 catches, 63 yards.
She's been the leading force for the team the entire season.
And it just proves once again that that's the difference maker in co-ed. But when you throw 5 TDs and you don't throw any INTs, that wins you games.
Yeah.
Daryl has been a huge difference maker for this team. Badgers have been looking for an identity all season, which is other than Cesar Garcia just being a phenomenal receiver. And unfortunately, they haven't quite found it yet, and that made them pay early on. But it's so great to see Iced Out, a team who struggled so much last season, have a signature win in the playoffs. And I think that's what's so cool about this double elimination format is you have teams who are playing their first playoff game and can actually have a meaningful victory when in any other playoff format, they'd probably be beaten up on by one of the top teams in the division.
Well, Cesar Garcia normally playing quarterback. He started at quarterback for the game, but after throwing a couple of interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I get it. You're in a playoff game. Try something else if it's not working. They did get a touchdown by Omar Chavez thrown by Omar Chavez later in the game, and he ran one in as well. But again, like we see on one side, Melissa Haber taking over the game, and really not the same kind of output from the female players on Badgers. For myself, I was there to watch the Tier 1, a couple Tier 1 games, but I'll go into the Blessed, the Blessed versus, sorry, it's loading.
Braves.
And
Blessed versus Braves, yeah, I know.
Braves, that's it, sorry. I could see the team in my mind, but couldn't get the name out. Blessed put 50 up against Braves, and Isaiah Allard on his way off basically shouted, "We put up 50, and I thought they were good," or whatever. I mean, yeah, Joe Mayo wasn't there. That's the story of the game. It's an entirely different team. Will Schwartz has been fine.
So before going into the game any further, are Braves still your favorites in Tier 1?
If Joe Mayo is there, yeah.
Okay, good. Now we can talk about the game.
So we talked about this off air. I think Braves roster is strong, but a huge difference maker is Joe Mayo. Like, I don't think they're definitely not a truly dominant team with Trottier quarterback. And to be fair, they've been competent with him at quarterback throughout the season. Iggy, you mentioned that you saw their defense being disorganized to start the game.
Yeah, the first 5 minutes, I just saw a lot of what's the play call while the snap was already coming to Steve's hands and just completing easy 5-yard passes. There were a lot of missed tackles from the Braves. The Blessed offense was using the butt tuck and the dip to evade tacklers, exactly what the Braves usually do to other teams. It's just something seemed off with the Braves defense in general.
Yeah, and so first, what I'm going to say about this game is the Braves are arguably missing the best player right now in FPF, and I think the best player in FPF is Joe Meyer, hands down. But before we get into this anymore, if you take both of these rosters, take the quarterbacks aside, both of you here are quarterbacks. Which roster of receivers would you rather throw to? Would you rather throw the Braves set or Blessed sets of receivers?
I think, stylistically, Blessed receivers probably fit what I do better. Joe Mayo does this thing where, Gary P can run a 12-yard comeback and Joe Mayo can throw it 3 yards out of bounds and it's still caught by Gary P. Like, that's unstoppable. It's you literally cannot defend. You can't be reasonably asked to defend 2 and 3 yards out of bounds, but the passes are completed there. It's nonsense. Or the thing where he catches it, immediately throws a 15-yard fly, and George Gary P is rising above people catching it. Or people are so worried about that they open up the middle for Mike Piercin. Like, there's so much sequencing and timing and chemistry that the Braves have with Joe Mayer, and largely have had with Will Trottier for most of the season. I think that's what makes them special. But
so the goal of
Stephen Harpersad runs a similar offense to myself and Iggy. So for us, I'm speaking for you, Iggy, but I would imagine the answer is similar for you.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you're asking the receiving set that was there yesterday, specifically. Marvin, Isaiah, James, Jafar at snapper, Will, power. There's a lot of speed, a lot of shiftiness. Of course, obviously, the most shifty player on the field is Serge Pilon. But when you're bringing in as your fourth and fifth receiver, Fred Junot and Jonathan Bigra, I like what James Langshaw and Ariel Librati are the comparable 4-5 receiver. There was one particular in play where Will Trottier goes to Fred Junot and is like, dude, you're out and in? You just shifted your head on the out. You didn't actually run an out route, and the timing was all off. So just little things like that that Blessed have executed over the season and just built a chemistry that it showed yesterday.
But I agree with both of you there. But that just goes to prove the influence and the impact that Joe Maher brings with this receiver group.
Oh yeah.
There's no bigger difference maker in any sport than a quarterback is to football. And when you have Joe Maher with this Braves roster, the way he overhauls every single aspect of it and turns them into one of the best teams in FPF is simply ridiculous. And that's kind of my goal is getting there, is just you take this team, you add Joe Maher, and that's the reason why I'm not panicking. And that's the beauty of double elimination, is because once they have Joe back, I have zero concerns.
Joe, while you're in Atlanta, go to Holman and Finch, and at 10 p.m., they make, I think, 24 or 48 burgers. Make sure you get your order in. They're exceptional.
I want a burger now.
Yeah. Well, let's just go to Atlanta.
Let's go. FPF's paying, right?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not?
In breaking news, your league fees are now $4,000. Sorry, that was a joke.
Well, I mean, spread across all the teams, it's not so bad.
Exactly. Why wouldn't you want to send us to
Don't be
Atlanta?
selfish. Don't be jerks. I also saw some of the Kangaroos game as well. I'm just going to bring that up momentarily. From the things I saw was exactly what you would expect, is Dan Lazara just dissecting the KGP defense. KGP actually made it a game in the second half. They were down early. And Kangaroos got the ball back at the second half, and they lost 32-28. That's just the thing that KGP does. They're pesky. They stick around forever, and they often annoy the opposition into a loss. But this time, Kangaroos able to hang on. AJ Gomes just ridiculous in this game.
Yeah, AJ Gomes is ridiculous as AJ Gomes is.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest takeaway from this one, and what surprises me, is Dan Lazara throwing one interception is what you can call a bad game for Dan.
Yeah.
You don't expect him to throw an interception against anyone other than the most elite teams in FPF. And while KGP is good, I'm not putting them in the elite category.
Weren't they 3 times back-to-back champions?
In Division 2. And Division 2,
Yeah.
I can't call you elite when you're going up against Dan Lazara if you're in Division 2. So that's why. So for me, it's impressive that this team was able to get the win when Dan Lazara was not perfect as you expect them to be. It's so much fun to play on a team on defense. Well, it's like, well, my quarterback's scoring every drive, so you only really have to care about converts. So for them to be able to come out with that one extra interception of Cutler is huge.
Absolutely. What else caught your eye?
So I could talk more about Tier 1. I wish I could talk a little bit more about Tier 1. But
we'll do that in our breakdown.
I know. For me, Team Ethnic against Friends Without Danny was more of a game than I expected it to be. Having played Friends against Friends Without Danny in Week 1 of the Tier 2 season,
they came along throughout the season.
They really improved. And for them to make it a 2-point game against a Ben Lawler-led Team Ethnic is impressive.
I was surprised by the amount of defense played in this game. I was telling everyone to take the over last week. Wherever the over is. Started at 80, take the over. I thought this would be like a 43-42 game or 46-44 kind of game. And no, it was still close. But Team Ethnic walked away with a 20-18 win.
Yep. And actually, while we're on the topic of this one, something I think we need to give a bit of credit to on this Team Ethnic team, which I don't think has been talked about enough this season, is the rushing of Sylvain Folenfant, who had an average season last time when he was playing in the spring with Iggy and I, and has absolutely turned it around to be arguably one of the best rushers in Tier 2. I think he's led Tier 2 in sacks. He had a sack in this game against Jared Buck, who's not an easy quarterback to sack. So I just want to take a second here and highlight out overall what's been an impressive season performance from Sylvain. But yeah, for me, the fact that this game was so defense-heavy was an absolute shocker.
Yeah.
When I see Ben Lawler-led teams, I expect them to just drop 40 bombs on you and either score or throw an interception on the first play of every drive.
I also saw a play. Jared Buck threw to the corner to Chad Buck. Chad went up and made an amazing grab. I guess he wasn't in bounds because our game was happening at the same time. I assumed it was a long touchdown. I was surprised Jared Buck unable to take advantage of the typically poor deep defense of Team Ethnic. Team Ethnic usually struggle to defend anything beyond 12 yards. And I mean, that's the thing Jared Buck does well. And they added Max Bureau throughout the season, who's a really good downfield threat. Chad Buck also gives him that. And Justin Santillo was there as well.
Yeah, that's a well-rounded team. And the fact that there's so few points in this one is kind of concerning to Team Ethnic going forward. Do you think this is more of a testament towards the strength of Friends Without Danny's defense, or do you think we need to be worried about Team Ethnic's ability to produce points in the next round?
I worry that this was a game that, just the little bit I saw, there was some lack of execution. Mo said something about this game in our chat,
Which I
Iggy.
didn't really understand.
I didn't understand either. I was hoping someone can translate Mo to English.
Yes.
Minglish.
I
English.
had trouble I had trouble understanding it as well, but given that it was a 2-point game, I believe he said that Friends Without Danny were going for an extra point convert, and it got intercepted and returned. Got intercepted, returned, and then there was a penalty on the play that then gave Team Ethnic a convert attempt for themselves.
Last man back.
Something like probably that.
Oh, Jesus.
So Team Ethnic scored an extra point on that because of that penalty. And that was one of the game-changing plays, according to Mo.
All right.
That's too much for me to wrap my head around. So instead, I'm going to ask Peeze what he thinks about Mongoose versus Game Changers, which seems like a close game, but then you open up the stats and you realize that Anton Sakic, which I think I'm pronouncing correctly for the first time in my career. God.
Yes, that is the way we're pronouncing it this
It's
year.
the way we're pronouncing it, but it's not the appropriate way.
So if we're right, we're always right.
Yeah.
How is this game so close? How is this a 4-point game when he throws 3 INTs and Schaefer throws 0? Because I'm confused. Can the quarterback explain this to me, please?
As drives that don't end in a touchdown. So Mangoose actually took where was it? They moved the ball well generally, right? They doubled up on first downs from what Game Changers put up. The only thing I can think of though is I want to say they had 8 drives, but now I navigated away and don't see where it was.
They had 7 drives.
7
each.
drives. 7 drives each? That's so weird. Okay, they had 7 drives each, and they literally scored 5 on 7, and the Game Changer scored 4 out of 7, so that's why it's a difference of a touchdown.
And Mangoose finished the game with the ball. Sakic was intercepted.
Yeah.
Mangoose turned over possession. That was kind of a game where that
At
makes it.
that point, like the Mangoose isn't looking to score the game.
Yeah, they're looking to get a first down. That being said, I just want to point out what's overall an impressive performance from Game Changers, a team which a lot of people were kind of crapping on this season.
Didn't we say it in week 1, the two of us on the show, that they were the kind of team you wanted to face early in the season?
Yes.
Because they were going to get better.
Yes. I also knew very little about this team, having seen Sakic. I gotta say Sakic play.
Mm-hmm.
Impressive. Like, really impressive as a quarterback.
Well, he is. So the story behind Game Changers, they enrolled in Div 5 when there were 6 divisions. Because they didn't know the league, right? They were brand new to the league and basically went undefeated, won a championship Div 5.
Yes, that makes sense.
Then they moved up. When they got to Div 3, they struggled, but they also had like injuries, so their core kind of fell apart. I've always been impressed with Anton Sakic. But so the one issue with Anton is that if you can take away the first 2 reads, he doesn't reset his feet and tends to throw deep off his back foot, and that's where his accuracy is compromised.
And someone nearly clocked me on a play like that. But the thing which I think Sakic does best out of any quarterback in this division, I'm including Harry Brassard and Sinagrin, is touch on intermediate passes.
Yeah.
I've never seen a quarterback that I've played against. I've played up to probably tier 2 is one of the highest levels I've played in, who can get the ball up and above a short defender to hit an intermediate receiver at 10 to 12 yards.
Mm-hmm.
It's an exceptional ability, and it forces defenses to entirely change the way they play because you can't play.
He drops it in the basket. Like, he doesn't just throw it through defenders, basically.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really pretty to watch on such a small field.
It's how I want to throw the ball.
It's how you don't throw the ball.
It's how I don't throw the ball, exactly. But like, it's for guys who don't have because he actually has a really strong arm. But for a lot of guys who don't have a strong arm, it's what we try to do to like be able to place the ball well. And it's a really difficult skill to master. And he does that about, like you said, probably better than anybody I've seen in FPF.
Yeah, it's a really niche skill set. It's those 12 yards intermediate routes behind a short defender. But if he could just throw those all day long.
That said, it also is one of the things that can be the downfall also is that if you interfere with a route and the route doesn't arrive to where the ball needs to arrive at,
yes,
it looks ugly. There was a dude who used to throw that way back in the day, whose name I can't remember. Don't remember. It doesn't matter. It was the same kind of thing. It's like if you played a little physical with his defenders and broke up the timing, then it kind of looked at times like it wasn't a competent offense.
And I'd never play physical, ever.
Yeah, you know.
So if we're moving on to tier 3, the game that's jumping out at me right now is Bandits against Lockdown. Honestly, both ends of this one kind of surprised me. The fact that Lockdown scored 31 is surprising, and the fact that Bandits scored 40 is even more surprising. Both of these teams, I'd like to think that their defense is probably better than their offense, and that's not at all what we saw in the divisional round.
So, Eagle wasn't there. He's the play caller for Lockdown.
Eeks, come on.
It changed. Well, he's there's the same reason he's not here.
That's why I'm
Miami.
here.
He's in Miami and not eating a La Careta like a chump. Like a chump.
Who would want to be in Miami? What a loser.
The thing is, Bandits are this team where they can go on runs where they put up points. We've seen Emil Scaff run an offense that puts up a lot of points in general. And they have great athletes, which Lockdown doesn't have. Lockdown relies on scheming and sort of effective execution of those concepts. And I think that's difficult to do when you don't have your defensive play caller.
And there are only 6 players in this game, which means players like Steven Alberico, who is a great center but probably not much of a defender, are forced to play a lot on defense. So
I know Steven. He's the best dentist you can hire. I'm not even joking. He's amazing, wizard. But also he's an exceptional snapper.
He is.
But he'll tell you his defense isn't good. He's not only is he not the fastest or fleetest of foot, but he doesn't understand. He's not aware on defense to know what routes are happening behind him and around him. So when he sees something in front of him, he'll jump at it and not realize he's creating openings in other areas. And where sometimes you want to give up the 1 yard quick out and not allow an intermediate pass behind you.
And for Bandits in this game, the difference maker, very simply, was Manuel Leroy, someone who we've seen excel in the past. Mm-hmm. And it's great to see him keep on taking the step up offensively. I think he's snapping for this team. The offense ran through him. 6 receptions, 60 yards, and a score. Defensively, though, is where I think he's taken the biggest strides this year. I know he's calling the defense for this team this year. I'd like to take a little bit of inspiration because I hope he's inspiring himself with my defensive play calls. He had 2 tackles, an INT, and he returned that interception for a touchdown. He changed the tides in this game single-handedly. Without both those offensive numbers and defensive numbers, we're looking at a Bandits loss. So in terms of looking at someone like Manu, he's taken such strides at defensive play caller. What do you think is the cap on him moving up towards in the future?
I like him a lot. He's a guy who, being that he can play snapper, he can play defense, he can play probably most likely slot receiver, and I don't think he would excel that well on the outside in a lot of offensive systems. But given that he does that wide range of skill set, I think he can play in the upper divisions. I do think he's probably a guy who's more of a role player in like a Div 2, Div 3 team, but he's not a guy who will ever be a liability on any team.
No. He's the kind of guy, if I'm building a roster, you just absolutely want him on your team because he can snap, he can play receiver, he can rush, which is one of his more natural positions, and he can play in coverage.
Oh yeah,
short
he
and
rushed
deep.
me when he was with AF1 last year.
He just does everything, and when you're building a team, having someone who has the ability to do a bit of everything is just a huge asset.
Yeah, and nice dude. Also.
Chill,
nice dude, bilingual. It's everything you want in FPF.
He's the best thing in FPF.
Yeah,
so
I like him a lot.
We'll wrap it up here with Lockdown Bandits, but just a bit of context in this game. Lockdown was 5 players up until halftime.
Oh. Jesus.
Leading 19-6.
Jeepers.
Actually leading 19-0.
So should they have played with 5 players the entire game?
Yes, as you can see from the Code 1 finals last year, playing with 5 is how you win.
It's how you win.
So
it creates more space.
Exactly.
So of course, Bandits with a huge comeback, they got the onside kick. Manuel Leroy, speaking of, he was the one who converted the onside kick with about 2 minutes left in the game. Get the game leading touchdown, and his pick 6 was the last play of the game. So up 34-31. The pick essentially alone ended the game, but he returned it to the end zone.
Yeah.
So tier 4 was pretty boring.
Step bros. The hell?
We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, we have to because people need to know. You gotta stop cheating. Just
So
don't cheat.
I'm gonna say this. It's not cheating. I don't think anything here is intentional whatsoever. Unfortunately, what happened is Step Bros had played a game. One of their players had 3 games played during the regular season. That same player played the playoff game against Toon Squad. They are ineligible to play since you need 4 games played to be eligible for the playoffs. Everyone, please take note. We do check here. We find out these cases. Had 3 games played, which unfortunately resulted in a forfeit loss, which really sucks on all ends. Forfeits are not something we like processing as the league.
Yeah.
It makes no one
Our
happy.
policies are basically to avoid forfeits at all costs.
At all costs. It makes no one happy.
So like if we would have been messaged and like let's say for example it was that the person said like, oh well the scorekeeper just didn't put the person in. If you reach out the night of that game or a couple days after that game, we'll try and do the research to give credit for that game played. But like
If you
it's on
reach
the
out
captains
before,
to follow up.
and for all captains out there, please, dear God, reach out to us before. Talk to us before your game happens. We can never really go back once a game's played. But if you text me a week before, we'll make something work most cases. Or at least we'll have a distinct answer.
The league rule on it is that you have 7 days after the game where there's a stat incorrection, a game played that wasn't given. You have 7 days to contest it. Because once we move on to another week, there's scorekeepers are keeping track of 6-7 games a week. They're not going to remember. So it's really within the 7 days. So really to say 5 days even before your playoff game is already too late.
Yeah. It sucks. It's just a really shitty situation. I feel bad for all the teams involved. Sorry. It's really, really shitty. It's not something we like to see in any cases. Other than that, what caught your eye in Tier 4 that wasn't a forfeit, Mr. Peeze?
Well, Primetime taking 2 losses in one night was shocking. Not so much that they lost to West Island Boys 2.0, but when they lost to
Deep balls?
Deep Balls,
Badly.
I have trouble piecing that together. Bruno Prevanche was great, and he's a great athlete, but you figure, Ethan Adrian, one of the best rushers I've seen play flag, would handle him. He wasn't able to. He Bruno Prevanche, mostly from using his arm, but buying time the way he typically does, finding receivers, Victor Riferati and Francois Larmé, basically being, getting 9 of the 21 targets throughout the game. A lot of what to be expected. Francois Rochelot was managed well by Primetime, but it seems to be that it came at a cost. Daniel Spina throwing 4 interceptions, Zach Lyman throwing 2 interceptions. Just it looked like after that first loss, maybe they just didn't have it.
The wheels came off.
Yeah, that's frustrating. They're a team that plays emotionally, so they play a little hot and cold at times, and this one unfortunately was a little colder than hot.
Yeah, they definitely got super cool. I don't know a ton about Tier 4. I haven't seen very many games. That being said, looking
You're
through this.
never supposed to admit that on the podcast.
Oh, I'll admit
We
my
watch
competence.
everything all the time, wherever we're in, omnipresent, omnipotent, and so on.
He's flustered.
It's flustered.
He's flustered.
Very much. Yeah, that
well
makes
then, well then, giving us the sound, Iggy.
I did it so well timed that you couldn't actually hear the actual flustered, so I had to play it a second time.
I think your thing was like, the mistake was I did my job too well.
Yes.
Of course.
Flustered.
That's everything's been going so smoothly
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
So, are we good to move on to the women's division? Because I've had enough of Tier 4. They
Let's
didn't give us
do
enough
it.
excitement.
Yeah. So as we look at the women's division, I'm happy with the matchups we had in the first round because, if the schedule was built slightly differently, it could have gone terribly. It could have been worse than Tier 4.
It could have, but it wasn't. Thank you, schedule gods.
But Louvre and Loup-du-Nord showed some growth since the last time they played, where it was basically decided on one big play at the end of the game. Here, Loup-du-Nord put up 3 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. Kiesta Lacroix able to score on that running touchdown. They run a lot of like end around sort of plays, so I imagine that's how that happened. Brenda Leonard not really able to get her footing set, completing under half of her passes, not really moving the ball with the same level of efficiency. And we said if Loup-du-Nord could eliminate turnovers, they would be probably
Exactly.
a good opportunity to win the game, and they did.
And that's really what I want to talk about this one. Having seen both of these teams play just a little bit, what's for me been characteristic of both of these teams is just taking the ball and chucking it over the middle of the field and going, someone's there, but most of the time it's the other team's safety, which really sucks.
Well, it's also because of the nature of the game. We've talked about this before, where you need to get to half field.
Exactly. Yeah, it happens.
There's more turnovers.
Yes, but I'm talking more here on early downs. Some of the little games I saw. Again, I'm not omnipotent like the great Peeze, but I have seen some games out there. And from the biggest takeaway here, just looking at the stats, because that's what I do. I make bold claims based off very little information, aka stats. Is there were no interceptions thrown by Les Loups du Nord, and that's very simply why they won the game. And the fact that you can clean up those turnovers is the biggest sign of progression for a quarterback.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, it's a game, and the women's game is often decided by turnovers, and that's what we saw here.
Well, more than turnovers, the women's game is decided by interceptions, since turnovers on downs always revert to the other team's 5-yard line. Those interceptions gain you so many yards; they're a huge difference maker.
Vortex, Gabrielle Vanier, overcoming 3 interceptions on her end, but Alison Sobel, known for being a bit of a gunslinger, she got intercepted 5 times. It's a lot of what you expect in this kind of game. Russia Valier and Kaya Ellen Beckles getting interceptions for Red Nation. Red Nation often have issues scoring. That was the case here. Vortex never have issues scoring, and a 32-0 game is what happens.
Can we also talk about Catherine Girard, who had 10 tackles, 3 INTs, one of those for a pick 6?
And
she was
3 touchdowns.
And 3 touchdowns?
On offense.
She was everywhere. I'm just surprised she wasn't throwing touchdowns to herself by the end of this game.
She's awesome. She's really good. So, not surprising. I mean, it's as not surprising as a 3 touchdown, 3 interception, 10 tackles, 1 pick 6 game can be. You know what I mean?
Like she won 2-way player of the year. Like all like the next step is 3-way player of the year or something.
And like the 2-way here, it was demonstrated, right? Like she was the 2-way player in this game, and the storyline going into this game was like, we like to pit 2 players up against each other. It's like Rachel Valier and Catherine Girard, probably the 2 best 2-way players in the women's division.
Catherine won.
Catherine won this one, yeah.
Not even close.
Red Nation's missing that explosiveness. They're missing that next gear.
I don't even think they're missing the explosiveness. I think they have too much explosiveness. Allison goes through too many big plays. I would love to see them get really boring.
When they're boring, they don't get a lot of yak, though. It's one of the things.
And you need yak in the women's division. Yeah. For example, Stephen H. would never succeed in the women's division or a men's division that was ran like the women's division because he's so focused on gaining 3 yards plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 12. So I understand you need to go for a different style of quarterbacking play, but it's a bigger field because there's less players on it. So if you start looking for 5 yards at a time, which isn't a huge increase over 3, I just think this Red Nation team is too focused on chunk plays, and they're too exciting instead of being too boring. And since you're too exciting, you become too boring, and that makes more sense in my head than it does on the mic. But
it's a little different too, than we saw in the Lou and Louvre game, where Alison Sobel actually, she completed 17 passes. There was some movement, just not enough. So it does feel as though when the short game operates in the sandbox, and then when they take shots, it's just not there.
And it's really easy to pad your stats in the women's division, because imagine you facing a 4th and 20 or a 4th and goal from your own 20-yard line, for example, situation. Teams will give you a 10-yard completion, a 15-yard completion all the time.
Yeah.
So I could look at the play-by-play if I was slightly less lazy, but I presume a lot of these yards from Allison are coming on 4th and long situations where she's gaining half of it.
If only there was a way to prepare. If
only we had a script.
Ellen Beckles, I know, right? Ellen Beckles was only targeted twice. I thought she's the answer to that yak issue for this team, and just not used enough on offense, in my opinion.
If you look at her back in her glory days with Yin and Yang, she was one of the best deep threats in the co-ed division just because she has an ability to stretch the field, just running flies, hooks and goes and flies. She's a very, very vertical receiver. Kind of the James Drysdale of the women's division, I'd say, who runs a great fly, runs a great post, is kind of an average receiver underneath for run your slants. And the fact that they're not just sending her deep,
but so
hacking the
when you
deep
see James Drysdale now with Mongoose, right?
Yeah.
Like on key downs, he's often running the drag or the slant and picking up yards after the catch. And that's a way I think that Red Nation can improve the efficiency in their offense.
It 100% would be. She's got exceptional speed.
Let's stay with the women's division And let's start our breakdowns because we're 45 minutes into the show.
Jesus, we talk a
Yes.
lot.
Yeah.
Remember when I did this?
No.
I meant go to the next segment.
Oh, he meant slow down.
Oh.
Okay. We'll talk really slow.
So Brutes Vortex, game of the year in the women's division
I
is
mean,
what we
game
wanted.
of the year until finals.
Yeah, where they will probably play again.
Probably.
In the real game of the year.
Can we bet donuts on this?
Dollars to donuts.
Dollars to donuts, dimes to donuts.
I'll take your dollars and you can finish my donuts.
I've got $0 on me. I like that trade.
Perfect. I like it. Damn students. I swear to God.
We're known for having so much dollars.
So Brute Vortex, when it comes to Brute, it's a machine. Everything they do is perfect. It's kind of what we talked about with Braves. They're that level of or let's put it this way. Braves are Brute level of efficiency in tier 1. They're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. They run complex route combinations. Maud Lacasse is a great decision maker at the quarterback position. Through the season, 42 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. It's kind of like if you draw an NFL parallel, it's like what we're seeing with Tua and the Dolphins, with like the decision making and the creating a space. Like that's what we see when we watch Brut. They're impossible to defend. You need to go score for score.
And I'm trying to look at Brut. I'm trying to figure out what the weakness on this team is. As someone who has,
there's no weakness.
I think there is one. I think their rushing
like
is
the
average.
rusher.
Yes, the rusher. They have 6 sacks in 8 games as a team.
Yeah,
which is average.
No, Maggie Gervais is very good.
Yeah, I don't
very
think
good.
I don't think the stats.
Arguably, that has to be their weakest area.
I guess.
Right? If you want to find one,
It's like
okay,
you're saying
it's their weakest area because it's an 8 on 10 because everything else is 9, 9.5, and 10 on 10.
yes, I like picking out flaws.
like you're saying, what's the one thing that makes me slightly less handsome? It's just impossible to answer. It's impossible to answer.
That's my cue to put you on the screen.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. But when it comes to Vortex, they're the team that can go score for score. They played twice this season. The first time around, Vortex got the upper hand. They won 18-12 in a game that I didn't think favored Vortex. Vortex won, and the game that I thought would have favored Vortex, Vortex won when they won 33-13. So like, I expected Vortex to win the higher scoring game and Vortex to win a lower scoring game, just because of the types of things they do well. Gab Vanier again has been a revelation in the division. Catherine Girard's been amazing. And by the way, we haven't even talked about Virginie Auboumenard much this season. She's amazing as well.
I've seen her play in season past, and she is a difference maker.
She's great. So honestly, top to bottom, it was hard to learn about Vortex because they're a new team to women's, and they don't have a lot of players in co-ed that we've seen for years as well.
Exactly.
So it's been tougher to evaluate them, but having watched them whenever I had the chance to watch them, I stayed to watch because they're fun. They are this just high impact, high octane.
Exactly.
offense.
So that's my kind of question. Brut for me are a great team. They're a physical team, as the name Brut suggests. I don't think they're a stretch the field kind of team.
It's efficiency. It's just
they're
everything they do
brutalist. But on the other hand, I haven't seen Vortex much. So my perception of this is Vortex are maybe a bit more high octane, gunslingers. So if Vortex just doubles down on this and goes deep and stretches the field,
that's what happened in the second game,
forces Brut to run with Vortex.
Yeah.
Is that how they win this game?
Maybe, but Brut were ready for that last time. So I think sequencing is important. Is Gavani needs to set up the deep ball, attack short, create space in the intermediate area, hit those areas, and then when you catch Brut creeping, that's when you take a shot over top. I don't know if that's in Gavani's DNA so far, but when I watched her play for she's up for Dame Lefort and for Petit Fuck, I was amazed at her patience. Just taking check down until the deeper shots were open. So maybe she's grown. Maybe now that she's seen that they can't just use their athleticism to of Gabani this game.
All right,
It's exciting.
Red Nation versus Louvre du Nord. Does Red Nation come back after their serious defeat to go on to the next round?
Are we previewing every single game?
Yeah.
Jesus
Maybe.
Christ.
Maybe.
Let's go 40 seconds at a time. So for me, Red Nation are that middle tier team. Loup du Nord are the. I said it the most anglophone way. Loup du Nord are the the bottom. They're in the bottom tier of women. So like,
Unfortunately.
it's Red Nation's a much better team. As much as they are not the top tier, they're still much better than Loup. So I think Red Nation. We'll do picks later, but Red Nation has the advantage.
I'm not going to disagree with you here. Unfortunately, look, 40-second recap. Loup du Nord have minus 248 as their plus-minus differential.
Yeah.
I'm going to end my analysis there.
Iggy, Scream of Division.
Yeah, tier 2.
Tier
So
2.
we still have we're on to the next round in tier 2. So Sweat and Beers, they had the upset win over Beer Belly Brigade, which I did not see coming, but now they face Kiss My Outlaws. Kiss My Outlaws are a tier 1 team in tier 2. Talk to us about how you cheated.
So while we did cheat, I'll bring a wrinkle to this one. We're going to be without myself, and I'll spoil this one.
So
maybe
you're
Steve won't
better?
like me.
Right.
And without Louis Bégin.
That hurts.
Yeah. So we're going to be
It
7.
also hurts us in Coed, but anyway.
And
Yes.
the only non-win from Kiss My Outlaws came at the hands. Oh no, that was
No, it was Beer Belly Brigade.
Wrong beer.
Wrong beer.
I'm sorry,
Too much.
I'm sorry.
That's what happens. You get your beers confused after too many beers. So
Yeah.
Iggy, lay off the beers.
Yes.
It's like at the end of the night, you're like, I had 4 beers, but you're 12 beers in.
Exactly. But it depends the size of your beers. If you're pulling out, those ginormous king cans,
Mm-hmm.
if you have 4 of those, you're having fun.
Those are just cans.
Exactly. 4
Those
cans.
are just regular cans.
Mm.
Flustered.
Yeah, Kiss My Outlaws to me have the advantage. But Sweat and Beers, when they're their full roster, when they have Chris Miard there, for example, Chris Miard, Chris Williams, and Rocco Cristiano gives them a lot of speed, a lot of versatility.
As long as Rocco doesn't do stupid shit, this will work.
I think he will. I think he will.
I fortunately think he will.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Rocco. He gifted me my
Blackouts versus
Bloody hell.
Mangoose.
Oh, I love this game. I'm sorry. I'm happy to talk
This
about
is probably the best game on the docket.
of the week.
Mangoose, I love the strides Nick Schaefer's made. I love the addition of James Drysdale. We've talked about a lot before. But, of course, let's not forget the pieces that have been there, like Thomas Couture. He still continues to be one of the best rushers in FPF and taking on Blackouts. Who are susceptible on defense? I think they are too static in their defensive sets, and I think Nick Schaefer might take advantage of that.
Deep breath. Okay. So what I wanted to say, to not answer you, was I don't think Kutsu's impact as a rusher will really matter here because Sinagra is much more of a pocket passer. So this game...
But Thomas Couture is also tall and rangy.
But he doesn't use
Not
that.
taller than Adam Sinagra.
No.
And he doesn't use his height. He's a fantastic rusher. He's one of my favorite rushers
Yeah,
in FPF.
he just got to olive oil those arms.
Yeah, he doesn't use his arms because then he'd be rushing in Division 1.
Fair.
I'm taking deep breaths in this because I'm trying to think it out. If I look at this one...
Yo, you got to go
Quicker
faster,
breath.
not slower.
Okay.
Quicker
Jesus.
breath.
Okay, I'm going to
called
go...
this guy?
Okay, no.
Who
I'm
hired
shutting,
him?
I'm shutting this down. It comes
I
down
want
to
to talk
this.
about this game for a half hour.
It comes down to this. Is this a game first to 6 TDs or first to 2 interceptions?
First to 1 interception.
First to 1 interception, and the question
And who
I have though, guys, is Beer Belly Brigade against Team Ethnic.
There you go.
Beer Belly Brigade. I don't see how they stop Alex Fafard's deep ball. That's going to be an issue because again, it's not something they defend well. I don't understand what happened last week, but it's going to have to be on the strength of Bissonnette and of Ben Lawler if they're going to have a chance.
No. It's going to be on Sylvain Folenfant, who has been the best rusher in Tier 2 this season. If you beat Beer Belly Brigade, you need to stop Fafard running on 3rd and 4th down. You need to contain his time in the pocket. If you can't do those 2 things, they will win. And if I'm putting this matchup, spoiler alert, I'm choosing Fafard over Sylvain despite my height.
God, you're the worst. So, Game Changers, Centaurs. Centaurs, to me, are a well-built roster. Look, there's an upgrade, obviously, when you go from Jordan Rossi to Jason Rossi. He's a really good quarterback, doesn't get a lot of the credit he deserves in FPF. And then on the other side, Game Changers, again, a team everyone kind of sold short, but now they're playing at a higher clip. They've shown how well they can compete, and I'm excited to see moving forward how they fare.
Yes.
All right. Great analysis by Alexi. Scream a division.
We're going to Tier 4.
There are no games. Oh, yeah, there are. My bad. It's all in the divisional round. Okay, I'm going to start talking.
Tier 4, well, yes. Save the Turtles, Red Dragons. Go ahead.
Save the Turtles, Red Dragons in Tier 4. I'm looking at Tier 3. This makes more sense now.
Save the Turtles, Red Dragons.
Okay,
Save the Turtles. Stop. Pay attention to the show. If you're not ready to talk, I'll filibuster. If I'm not ready to talk, you filibuster. It's not complicated. Mo figures it out, for Christ's sake. Save the Turtles. I like the roster overall. I think the best version of them is with Vincent Chung throwing. He just won quarterback of the year. Red Dragons are the weirdest team in FPF, not in Tier 4. I can't get a grasp on whether or not they're good. They just sometimes come on incredibly flat. I don't think Guillaume Boulanger, however, can put up the points required to score on pace with Vincent Chung.
And I think Vincent Chung in the playoffs, if he gets desperate, I know he's been trying to not run all season. If he turns it on and starts using his legs, it's just a different level. It sucks for your teammates who aren't catching passes. But if Vincent goes, screw this, I want to run, I don't see Red Dragons being able to stop that. So, Peeze, let me throw this to you. Let's quickly transition on to the Penetrators versus West Island Boys 2.0.
Great game.
Great game, agreed. What do you like here?
That West Island Boys have a Tier 2 receiving core.
Yes.
And one of them is playing quarterback. Yeah, Zach Stacy, since he's been at quarterback, has been great. They had an ugly win versus Primetime, which I actually think plays to their favor because it goes to show you they can win in a variety of different ways. You want to see that. Penetrators, I don't know if they're the kind of team that benefits from having a bye. I can see Justin Goodman taking a couple drives to get into the game, and that's not going to play to their favor. It's not the way that you can beat West Island Boys. They need to take possession and just choke the game out slowly.
And look, long story short, 30-second analysis is what we want. The depth of West Island Boys is ridiculous. When you have someone like Nicholas DiMarlo, who succeeded in the higher division as FPF, as your fifth receiver.
And Julian McLaren Thompson. And
yeah, it's crazy. It doesn't make sense. This isn't a Tier 4 team. Move on. Give them the trophy.
Wow.
You wanted hot takes. Jesus.
Are you taking on timestamps, Iggy, for... This would be a good episode for Instagram stories and reels because we're talking really in sound bites.
I had a call with Rob right before. He said, give me sound bites. I hope I'm doing my job. Please don't fire me.
So 8:55 to 9:01. Got it. We are moving on because the other games were not certain what the matchups are going to be. We're going to skip over women's because you shifted the script. We're going to tier number 1, Uno.
1 is Uno.
I like these games.
When you play Uno, do you know what Uno is?
I do know what Uno is.
I always have to check. Anything that's not football. So, do you play with the with stackable like +2s and +4s and so on?
No, it breaks the game.
Oh, you're nonsense. That's the way to play.
No, God.
Yeah, I swear to God. Gen Z wants everything to be fair.
You bring him on the show once and then
And you don't know how to play Uno.
What?
Disappointing.
You didn't know what the game was called a second ago.
Uma Thurman. Like, what's going on? Kill Bill here?
KGP take on Run It Once. Run It Once plays this really methodical offense under Jeff Rosenblatt, of course. I've said often that I love the what they've done in terms of high division talent along with underrated players, guys like Ben McMahon and guys like Louis Paquette who subbed during the season, but now they go with their core. James Ohio and obviously James Drysdale being the linchpins, but let's not forget about guys like Matt Bond and their pedigree in this division as well. However, KGP, this is what they do. They're going to show up. They had the worst possible matchup they could have had in round 1. They took their lumps in that game, but I think Cutler shows out in this game.
So I don't think I'm smart enough to enjoy the product that KGP put out on the field. I watch KGP play, and I think they look pickable. I understand that's a me issue.
You're wrong.
I know I'm wrong.
Stephen Harperson and I have drooled over how well Phil Cutler runs that offense.
I know, but I'm choosing Run It Once.
You're not picking games.
I'm picking right now. I'm
Oh my God, what is going on? He doesn't get it.
I don't.
He's flustered.
Very. I'm so flushed. The lights are getting to my face.
Braves, easy W. I thought Braves were going to draw KGP in this game.
Yeah, me too.
We were wrong in the parking lot, it turns out. Iggy.
Damn it.
Easy W. They got the surprise win over STL. They're playing with house money, but I think they create a lot of matchup difficulties. especially when it comes to Jeremy White's ability to buy time. I talked about all last week about how he hasn't looked healthy and he hasn't been able to do that. He looked great this week. That said, going up against Braves, it's a different kind of animal. I think Joao Mario will be back. That said, KGP hasn't solved the rushing issue. So I see this game as being high scoring, and I don't know if ECW has the ability to stop Joao Mario on any drive.
I don't think they do. You'll need to rely on Braves making a mistake to stop them. And someone whose attention I will pull out here on Braves, who's only played 4 games, but I hope will be there for the playoffs, is François Rochelot, a former Division 1 guy who played with Flagg-Molsac way back when, had a fantastic season as a receiver and as a defensive player. I think one two-wave player in Division 1. If he's on his game, he's one of the best 5 receivers in FPF, and no one knows him. But that's a take I'm very, very happy to stay with. I've seen him play in other leagues. He's fantastic, and he's one of the rare rushers, so I'll choose Rochelot.
He was a
over
youth
White.
sports player as well.
He was. He played for Western.
Yeah, there you go.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he really, really is.
Yeah,
We have Kangaroos Blessed also, but
No, we're gonna do that. That's November 28th.
yes,
So we'll do that analysis next week.
Will Willpower have 3 picks? Sorry, next week.
probably. But they won't be real picks, and there'll be a lot of crying about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're moving on to the Co-Ed Cup. So the first matchup on the docket, we got the 27th. Let's start with the 20th game. So we do have Fast Not Furious playing La Secte.
Fast Not Furious took a loss, but they just have way too much firepower. La Sec, it comes out to Alison Francillon. He's going to have to do everything. He's going to have to be their offense, their defense, their special teams, their nurse, their doctor, their teachers. He's going to have to be everything.
And their therapist after they lose this game and start crying. Sorry, that wasn't nice. That being said, I don't think La Sec can really stand to go head for head with Fast Not Furious. This isn't a super, super evenly matched game. This is why we wish we had 2 co-ed divisions. Fast Not Furious have elite quarterback play, top tier receivers. All in all, F&F.
All right,
But I'm not making predictions yet.
I start take on benchwarmers. I think benchwarmers are better than what was expected.
They are.
Nick Gomez-Rizzo is a really, really good up-and-coming player.
You've actually seen him transform teams as well. He's transformed Team
Oh,
Ethnic the same way he's transformed Benchwarmers. Wherever he lines up, be it receiver or snapper, he changes the game and he forces defenses to adapt to it.
I saw him in our first game, and of course our offense wasn't where we needed to be, but just watching how much field he takes away and how he reads a concept and attacks a concept reminds me
So
of
instinctive.
of AJ Gomes,
Yeah.
right? Like it's the same idea where they understand what you're trying to do and they attack. The way they play defense is offensive.
It's instinctive.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to watch.
But Eistadt has the benefit. Again, we talked about it with regards to how well they use their female players, specifically Melissa Haber. She is amazing.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's impossible for Iced Out to win this game. This could be a very sneaky, cold pick to choose Iced Out. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
Well done.
Y&Y take on Melting Poets. Y&Y, I mean, quarterback play is not worth talking about, but the team itself, of course, they are always one of the best built teams in the division. We have, by the way, Jared Taylor eligible to play in the playoffs.
If he shows up, it's an entirely different issue.
Yeah, that's part of it. But, you know, the team itself, a lot of familiar faces. Of course, Olivia Stewart on the team, but Rachel Valliere being the key thing. Rachel Valliere, her ability to crash down on plays, playing more of the flat defense. I wondered how that was going to translate based on the fact that she often plays in a safety position in women's. It translated perfectly because she's an amazing player. Melting Poets, however, they've been plucky at times, but there just seems to be something missing at times. You know, Carl Murray has been absolutely great, but it's one of these teams where we haven't seen a lot of involvement from the female players. I think we need to see Sarah Cornway step up, as well as Claudia Morin-Arbor. If we get that, this can be a game.
It's a team I haven't seen play yet. That being said, if we look at their team picture, I see someone with a Browns hat, which I love. I love my
Did
Browns.
you love seeing them allow 184 yards rushing to the Dolphins?
I don't want to talk about that. I actually don't know what you're talking about. I have short-term memory loss, but I love the Browns hats, and that's why they're going to win.
I also love the Browns because of how poorly they played against the
But their
Dolphins.
jerseys are Browns colored.
That's true.
It's magnificent. I've never seen a so Browns-inspired team since the Browns, the
There
Bouchervilles.
was a team called Browns the Bouchervilles.
And how did the Browns, the Bouchervilles wind up? Strangely like the Browns.
And then finally, fit squad against Kiss My End Zone.
So which one of us can unbiasedly talk about this game?
I mean, picking is going to be difficult, but we can we could talk about what these teams
Will be no pick.
what these teams have to do to win. So Kiss My End Zone. Peeze has to not make mistakes.
Kiss My End Zone need to be healthy.
Yeah, so with the roster of most injured players in the history of FPF, predictably Louis Béchet hurt, Alexi Dubois hurt, Peeze old.
Alex Noel hurt.
Alex Noel hurt. Jesus.
Yeah.
So it's not Kiss My End Zone at full strength. We saw last week that it didn't translate. There was key moments where there was a lack of connection with players that haven't been on the roster as long as Louis Béchet or yourself, Alexi. And for Fit Squad, they have speed. They have a better quarterback play. They don't have the same athletes from on their women. But Lawrence Pompérin is great in the red zone. And Alexandre Falcon-Corb
is speedy as all hell.
But underused on this team.
Yes. So if I can bring this one out, if I can bring the shining beacon of hope for Kiss My End Zone, the shining beacon of hope is called Joey Notaro. We've seen Joey win games on his own, and God knows what this is going to do to his ego, but he can take over games.
I mean, it'll do nothing to when you're already at 100. Like
you're right.
When you max out on Madden, you can't go past.
You can't go anywhere. But very simply, he has beat Dom Lefort constantly, and I don't think Brouard is as agile a quarterback as Brouard. Simply talking on his legs. I think if Joey beats Brouard, Kiss My End Zone win, and I'll simplify the matchup down to that.
So your X factor for Kiss My End Zone is Joey Notaro. Who's the X factor for Fit Squad?
Laurence Pompérin for me.
Cool.
Again, just it's the way she uses her body. Just a really good physical receiver who works well in space.
I'll go Falcon because I know that this Kiss My End Zone team can be exploited by deep female threats.
I put the eagle sound.
That was a bad ego sound.
Wrong bird. It's a battle of birds.
All right, that leaves us with the final tier preview, tier number 3.
I was also hearing that I don't think the sound effect an eagle actually makes is not what we associate with what an eagle actually sounds like. What we commonly refer to as an eagle, I think, is a hawk, but I can do more research into this.
I mean, eagle and the hawk, they're just the same bird with different PR agents.
No, they're not. One eats the other one for breakfast.
I mean, aren't they both just glorified vultures?
Wow.
Aren't they?
Let's move on to tier 3.
So in tier 3, we're going to finish off with still the divisional round of the playoffs, the first round. These are the double elimination teams facing off, starting with the number 1 seed Arouche against the lowest seeded of the top double elimination teams, Blue Dreamers.
Well, when you phrase it like that, it's kind of an easy one to talk about. Arouche are everything you want to see in a team. They're fast, they're physical, they're young, they're athletic. I can't really find any weaknesses about this team. That being said, this team's been around forever. It's the one team I've never played and I've never seen play. So I'm not the most knowledgeable on them. But from everything I've heard and
they're
speaking...
also boring. Like, they're just...
Well, that's what happens when you're good.
They're boringly good. Like, there's nothing explosive particularly about them. They're just smart. They make good plays. And then what happens is sometimes they play a team that's more athletic. Sometimes they play a team that just executes a little bit better when they're a little off, and they lose a game. That's all. That's their entire FPF career. That's what it comes down to.
So actually, Alexi, the last time you were here, Eagle made the comparison of them to the Dallas Cowboys. That was the week 1 calling the audible. So are they... Which kind of team are they going to show up? Are they going to be the Dallas Cowboys of always, or are they going to beat their playoff?
Look, I don't think you need to be an exceptional Dallas Cowboys team to beat the Blue Dreamers. Let's have this conversation again in a week when they're facing off against a suitable opponent. Right now, I think we all know what's going to happen.
I don't agree.
AJ Gomes
I don't agree
is
because
playoff eligible.
Since AJ Gomes has been quarterback of Blue Dreamers, they've improved. Someone will need to explain to me why Blue Dreamers are not better than they are when you just look strictly at the roster.
But we had the same question last season.
Yeah. But honestly, I think not having Alessandro Patissoni all season hurt them. But with AJ Gomes throwing,
and running.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying with him at the quarterback position, because he hadn't been the entire season. He was there for the last 4 games, And they other than that one game against Bandits where AJ Gomes struggled, which Bandits are one of the better defenses in the tier.
Congrats, Manu.
And honestly, AJ Gomes, he's still relying on his athleticism while he's developing as a guy who's. I have no doubt he'll be a great quarterback in FPF. Just his sheer knowledge of the game will ensure that. But Arush is a difficult matchup because of their just intelligence. But again, I worry: do they have the athleticism to keep up with Blue Dreamers?
But for all this hype you're giving AJ, is he actually posting better numbers than someone like Raffaele Morelli? And is having Raffaele...
Yes, if you watch the games.
But if Raffaele is throwing to AJ, wouldn't you rather that?
Probably can't, based on a cap thing.
Okay, I haven't looked at that. I'll give you the point there.
It might be
I don't know if he can play on a team if because the only 4 games he played quarterback.
Okay, so then I see the point. Then I see the logic. If you can throw to AJ, that's the best receiver in FPF playing in Tier 3.
Yes.
Take him as a receiver.
But
he's a good quarterback.
The cap issue affects them because of his cap hit on offense.
But just ignore the cap. We see what happens.
What are you, CFS?
And 3-0-1 in their last 4.
Yeah.
So
they literally haven't lost since he's been
I know. I like AJ as a receiver. Okay.
Obviously. oh, infuriating. Kiss My In-Laws against Voodoo. Kiss My In-Laws are great. Voodoo
are great.
Did you guys play during the season?
No.
Did not.
Okay. You guys need to take a lead. If you don't, you're going to lose this game.
I know, because Frank Kai milks the clock.
Yeah.
He's infuriating.
He milks the clock, and he's not a guy who's going to make a ton of mistakes.
No.
If he does, he makes them early or when he's behind. So if he gets a lead and his momentum starts getting going, it's impossible to beat him.
It's the most infuriating thing to play against. Having played against this, he's one of my least favorite quarterbacks to play against. Not because he's not a great guy. He's a top-tier guy. But once he starts getting the ball in his hands and gets into rhythm dicing out passes, there's no stopping him. Yeah. You need to get into his head early.
Voodoo are getting into the playoffs after having lost, of course, to Blue Dreamers and Killer Rays in back-to-back weeks. So, they kind of
rattled.
They came into the playoffs ass backwards, but it's been a little time since they played, right? So it's going to give him the opportunity to collect his thoughts. You're going to get the best version of him. Now,
that being said,
will this be the game Iggy melts down and has one of those weird bad games?
No, he had it recently enough.
Then we're good.
He's got it out of
his system. He gets one per season, right? That's
he decided to have it in the regular season to throw away his quarterback of the year award. That being said, I think there is a weakness on this Voodoo team, and I think it's actually their over-reliance on Patrick Saint-Armand, who's a great receiver, but has 400 receiving yards, which is double what anyone else has. Well, not quite double. I'm not great with math. And 11 TDs, which actually is not even double. Anyways, you know what I mean. That being said, if you take away that comeback from Pat Saint-Armand, playing a sort of lock concept on him, you're taking away a major threat in this offense.
Try. It's hard, though, because the timing on it's perfect. And
it is.
Pat Saint-Armand is so difficult to guard.
He is, but this is a team that's getting older. And if you look at the athletes you have in Tier 3, you can't honestly tell me that it's impossible to guard Pat. It's difficult, but it's not impossible.
I was talking to Frank K, and he told me something terrifying. He said he wants to play till 60. And I thought of it myself. I was like, I can't play for another 20 years.
Can you play for another 5?
I honestly don't know. My body, it's not my decision, dude.
The best question you've asked all night.
I don't know.
Peace's ankle's going to wake up one morning and go, we choose violence. Your career is done.
Yeah. All due to FPF. I had no ankle issues until I started playing FPF. Which, don't listen to that. FPF's not dangerous.
I'm not playing because of ankle issues.
Bruins versus Traps. That's how it begins. I was 28, by the way. So
that's my number.
Keep that in mind. Bruins take on Trap Stars. Bruins play
That's a great game.
Softest defense in the history of FPF.
And Trap Stars kill you underneath. This is one of the rare games I can say I've watched.
Terrible matchup.
I watched Trap Stars demolish Bruins in every sense of the way possible. I talked to Gab Wiseman after that game. He's like, yeah, we just can't do anything against them. They had no solutions for what Trap Stars were proposing on offense, which is a very smart dissectical. That's not a word.
Dissectical.
I
have two dissectical.
I have two dissectical.
I was saying it's like dissect. That's not a word. Let's go with it. We ran with it.
Look, Ryan Garber completed 70% of his passes all season.
And I think he'll complete 75% against Bruins.
Likely, yes.
Yes.
He's going to... I coached him in FF Junior. I'm telling you, he will know their coverage if he doesn't already because he played them already.
We all know their coverage.
Yeah.
I know what their coverage is. I don't play quarterback.
Yeah. It's just they need to find a way to mix it up. Even if it's not their best look, they need to take chances. They're not going to win the game.
What they need to mix in this game is a bit of man.
Yeah.
Spice it up with a bit of man.
They don't have
coverage.
the athletes, but it doesn't
But just
matter.
try it.
It's about giving the appearance that you're doing something
But-
else.
Trav stars are going to score either way. So if you get burnt for a touchdown playing man, it doesn't matter because they're scoring the touchdown either way.
And it's almost better because they'll score quickly.
Exactly. So play man the whole game and get beat.
They're not going to do it.
They won't. They won't play man once.
Their shell defense.
They will play what's actually what they call corner lock, but it's actually 1-3-5. I've told everyone, you know what they're doing. Change it up, please.
Diamond Bougie take on Killer Reeze. This game's fun.
Ooh, the rematch.
This game's fun. What happened last time, Iggy?
So last time in the spring, Killer Reeze kind of destroyed the Diamond Bougie. What were they? The
City des Jetons.
Cité des Jetons. Then they started like throwing like 6 different quarterbacks because they were just like, yeah, screw this. Killer Reeze then also beat them in the regular season. So Diamond Bougie couldn't get their revenge there. And lo and behold, round number 3. Here we go.
But man, is Jules Reginbald good? Like,
Yeah.
holy
He's on
scheisse.
fire.
Yeah, he reminds me of Nick Schaefer. Like when he's
Great call.
He's a tackle QB who doesn't really understand the concepts and the dimensions yet.
But he's got a gorgeous arm.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's just when I picture it, it's just like toned and bronze. It's gorgeous.
Like the rest of his body's not tanned, but his
No.
arm is.
The rest could be white as all hell.
Yeah.
But the arm is like out of a Greek god.
And like, why is it glowing? Why does it have a halo?
But it
Yeah,
does.
it does.
It does.
Absolutely. We turned him into a cartoon character. Killer Reeze, I love the way their offense has developed. They kind of learned during the playoffs last year how to march the field and how to really play to the strengths of having a really well-built receiving squad. Tyler Bianchi didn't quite put up the kind of season I thought
Can we
he
talk
would.
about an opposite quarterback? He has not the same art talent. When he's trying to stretch the ball, it looks wonky.
Yeah, but it's on target.
It is.
Like,
But it gets there really slowly against a team which is
it's a guy,
full of athletes.
We talked about Anton Sakis' touch. This is like on the scale of Peeze to Anton Sakis of how nice a ball looks. He's in the middle. Like
He is.
He's the same kind of quarterback. It's just I think it's going to take him a little time to get there. He does have the benefit of having some of the better low division receivers.
Agreed.
Tyler Gerberg is amazing.
They're
Curtis Ryan's
underrated.
amazing. Chris Genio and Donovan Hines are great possession receiver snapper combo. They have everything. It's just a question of whether or not they can put it all together and whether or not defensively they're going to be able to stop Diamond Bougie.
Which I don't think they will. But we're getting to picks later.
Yeah. Actually,
Or is it now?
what time is it, Iggy?
It's time for the music's playing.
You didn't say that. You didn't say what time it's for. You just said it's time for it. It's not speaking.
It's true. It made sense in my head because I started playing the music. It's time for games of the week.
Well done, Eagle. Did you call him in Miami?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you, Eagle, for joining the show.
I personally heard games of the Wii, like the old video game console. I
Yeah.
think it'd be really cool to play.
It is games. It's always games. It's always been games.
Okay.
Pay attention.
Sounds good.
Alright,
I don't
I'm
know.
trying to sell Eagles video games.
His
So
old
I
video games.
actually have to probably adjust the volume a little bit. It's a little high. There we go.
Thanks, buddy.
We'll do like what Eagle does. We'll go through the same format that we went through the show. Starting with the women's division, we've got Brut versus Vortex.
Vortex.
Look, Maud Lacasse is amazing. She's as good as he gets. She's the best quarterback, not named Gab Vanier, in the division. Give me Vortex. 2 scores. We're doing it. Mocon, go to hell. It's all your fault. I don't want to cheer against Mo. She's amazing.
Mocon.
Vortex
Volocas.
by 2 scores.
It's a conspiracy.
Here we go. We got Red Nation versus
Conan.
Loup du Nord.
Red Nation.
Red Nation.
All right, we move on to tier 2. We've got Kiss My Outlaws versus Sweat and Beers.
Outlaws.
Pass.
We got Blackouts versus Mangoose.
Blackouts.
Mangoose.
1-1 there. We got Beer Belly Brigade.
I don't know we're keeping score.
Yeah, I'm keeping
1-1. Let me know when it's 2-1.
split vote. We got Beer Belly Brigade versus Team Ethnic.
Beer Belly Brigade's coming to this game angry. Give me Beer Belly Brigade.
BBB.
And our last game for tier 2, Game Changers versus Centaur.
Game changers. Let's do it.
I think Game Changers is the underdog pick, but I like Game Changers as well.
Peeze, that's your salty pick of the week.
Yeah, you go and you pick me with one hand. Get out of here. I thought that was an easy touchdown.
Moving on to tier 3, which we're no longer in order, but this is the order we're going in.
Perfect.
Arush versus Blue Dreamers.
Arush.
Blue Dreamers. I'm not.
Ooh,
I'm
upset
low on
special
Blue
here.
Dreamers.
It's we have similar tastes in cannabis, so that's what they're named after.
Right, Kiss My In-Laws versus Voodoo.
Pass.
KMI.
All right, Bruins versus Trap Stars.
Trap Stars.
Trap Stars. That's one.
That's 2-0.
2-0. It was 1-1, but now it's 2-0.
And our
Not even
last
2-0, by the way. 2-0.
and our last matchup of tier 3, Dime and Bougie versus Killer Race.
Diamond Bougie.
I'm in the tank for Killer Race.
And now it's 3-0.
Or 4-1. Depends who you ask.
All right, moving on to tier number 1. We got KGP versus Run It Once.
Give me KGP.
Run it once.
You're always wrong about KGP.
I know, but I'm okay with that. I'm not smart enough to understand KGP.
We gush over their offense.
And I
I'll
don't.
tell you, it's their concepts are masturbatory.
We don't need to know what you're doing later tonight.
That.
Braves versus Easy W.
Braves.
Braves.
All right, that's it for tier 1. And I'm going to have to put the music again. Hold on. As we move on to the Co-Ed Cup, we got Fast Not Furious versus Last Sec.
Fast and Furious.
Fast Not Furious.
Yeah.
We got Bench Warmers versus Iced Out.
The bench will be warm and not icy. Bench warmers.
I really wish I could say iced out here because I think this game will be closer.
It will be close.
It'll be closer than we expected.
Well, we both expect it to be close.
If
so
there
what
was a
does that mean?
spread, I would choose iced out to cover, but I'd choose bench warmers to win.
Fair.
Right?
So we're taking the points.
Y&Y versus Melting Pot.
Why not?
Why and why?
And last matchup here, we got Fit Squad versus Kiss My End Zone. Uh-oh.
No one can pick it. So,
No one.
Absolutely.
but
no one.
I will say us by 50.
Only 50? I actually was thinking more 55.
I would say 50. So.
Will you get more or less than 3 INTs on defense?
Well, I get the idea of
Yes.
defense. I will not.
I
I have
think you will.
7 in my career.
I think you'll get 7 in this game.
I'm not
As a rusher.
Even better, yes. We'll bench Joey and I'll rush.
I love it.
You wouldn't. I promise you wouldn't.
All right, that actually that does it. We'll just switch up the music here.
I don't remember what the music is.
Yeah, no, I gotta stop that one. Guys,
Yeah. What do we do?
you guys were muted this whole time.
Fuck out of here.
I wish.
I swear to God.
I don't know why that statement matters. If you think I'm doing a second take of this, you're wrong.
No. I have way too much money on the Thursday night game. I need to go home and watch.
We could have recorded this in Spanish. I was leaving right now either way.
Yeah.
We could have auto-translated
I
it into
only-
like Klingon.
I only have like a vocabulary of like 50 words in Spanish, so it would have been pretty boring. And most of them were cuss words.
I think that's 50 more than me.
Yeah.
So Peeze, Della, Reeze, who was calling the audible this week?
What?
The closing segment with who was on and who you're saying goodbye for.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you, Iggy.
Who was
I didn't know if I didn't know that the picks were concluded. It was not clear to me.
who was calling the audible this week?
We were calling it audible.
Not Eagle.
Not Eagle. Eagle is.
We miss you.
He's in South Beach, eating food that is not as good as he could have been. So, hoping he makes better choices in the future. He learned this week, by the way, that a Michelin star restaurant doesn't necessarily mean it's a great restaurant. It just meets the criteria for a Michelin star restaurant.
He wasted a lot of money, didn't he?
Didn't waste. It's still good.
Company money.
Yeah. Also, company money doesn't matter. Have you ever eaten a Michelin star restaurant?
There's none in Montreal, so no.
Well, no, we don't. It's complicated. Quebec refuses to conform to our health and safety guidelines, which is actually not worse than the Michelin star guidelines.
But they're coming to Montreal. They've inspected restaurants in Montreal.
They have, but we don't qualify because anyway, that's not fun.
Peeze is way too passionate on this subject.
Well, it's my job. It's my literal job. So yeah, so I want to thank you for joining me, even though you're incredibly annoying.
And argumentative.
Yeah,
And don't do the right
I
thing.
don't understand if you understand the concept of friendship, let alone have any friends.
No.
All right, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Erica is definitely the better Dubois. Iggy, thank you for stepping in and doing production work. I know it's super stressful for you, and thank you so much for doing that. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, but mostly I want to thank you all for letting me be myself.
Slap me in the back, something like a